we'll start the clock now. So my name is Noel Mueller, and I'll be presenting results from the Singapore Chinese Health Study on age-at menarche and CVD mortality. Before I begin, I want to thank the colleagues who helped me on this project, as well as the long-standing principal investigator of the Singapore Chinese Health Study, Ning Yu. And the colleagues who worked on this were from the University of Minnesota and the National University of Singapore. So menarche is the first menstrual period that a girl goes through, and it marks the onset of puberty and also a cascade of neuroendocrine changes that are still vaguely understood in the scientific community. Something that's peculiar about menarche is the 5 to 6 year variation in age at onset in women who are experiencing similar environmental conditions. As you can see here from previous studies, the age at onset of menarche has decreased over the last 150 years. This secular trend was steeper in the later 19th century and has leveled off a bit in the more recently. Especially concerning about the trend is that earlier menarche has been linked to a whole host of chronic diseases such as obesity, type 2 diabetes, hyperlipidemia, and metabolic syndrome. Surprisingly, investigators have seldomly looked at a hard endpoint like CVD mortality, and there's been only one investigation to date in Asian populations. As you can see here from the causal diagram, the potential association between menarcheal age and CVD is quite complex, involving early life antecedents, highlighted here in green, reproductive factors as well, highlighted in pink, and potential mediators or modifiers, highlighted here in light blue. Considering all of the important factors that may go into confounding and effect modification for this association, we decided it was important to look at a large cohort of women that had a lot of covariates for which we were able to assess confounding, effect modification, and mediation. Thus, we decided to look at the Singapore Chinese Health Study. For those of you who don't know this study, it's a study of the two major dialect groups in China, the Hokkien and the Chinese, who originated from the contiguous provinces of Guangdong and Fujian in China. They were recruited in 1993 to 1998 via face-to-face interview. And the women were 45 to 64 years of age at initial enrollment. Among those who were approached for the interview, 85% responded favorably. And at the time of baseline assessment, all lifestyle, demographic, nutritional, and reproductive variables were collected. We obtained information on cardiovascular disease death, including ischemic heart disease and cerebrovascular disease, by linkage analysis with the nationwide registry of birth and death in Singapore. We assessed death through 12/31/2009, and in this population, the loss of follow-up was negligible. The primary cause of death was CVD, and again with ischemic heart disease and cerebrovascular disease being additional endpoints. We excluded any women who were missing information at baseline at age at menarche, as well as those few women in the population who reported ever smoking. Due to the strong cohort effect of smoking, we wanted to disentangle that from the association between age at menarche and CVD mortality. We grouped the women into 4 categories: less than or equal to 12 years, 13 to 14 years, 15 to 16 years, and 17 or more years. To quantify the CVD risk factors at baseline, we used a log Poisson or relative risk regression. For the incident deaths that occurred between baseline and follow-up, we used Cox proportional hazards. We used the likelihood ratio test to assess interaction by birth cohort, menopausal age, BMI, and dialect. In our primary model, which I'll be presenting today, we included age at enrollment, year of interview, dialect, education level, physical activity, alcohol, oral contraceptive use, age at first delivery, parity, age at menopause, and hormone replacement therapy, and also adjusted for BMI to get the independent effect of age at menarche on CVD mortality. Here you can see in the baseline table that not only is there a strong secular trend with age at menarche with age at baseline enrollment, there's also a strong inverse trend with BMI, percent secondary education, any physical activity, ever use of hormone replacement therapy, use of oral contraceptives, and having 2 or more children. There was no association with premenopausal status because this is an age-adjusted table. To assess prevalent risk factors, again, we quantified it using prevalence ratios, which were obtained from relative risk regression. Here you can see a strong inverse association with prevalent risk factors and age at menarche with obesity and age at menarche. Strong decreasing trend with increasing age at menarche. Same goes for diabetes reported at baseline, a strong decreasing trend. And likewise, hypertension, we saw a decreased trend in the later menarcheal age categories. So we, again, used Cox proportional hazards then to look at any incident deaths of CVD, ischemic heart disease, or cerebrovascular disease that occurred between baseline and follow-up. And for our main outcome of interest, we observed a significant decreased trend, a graded decreased trend with age at menarche and cardiovascular disease mortality. And this trend was significant when we looked at it as a linear variable. And for each additional age at menarche category, there was a 9% decreased risk of CVD mortality. For ischemic heart disease, the trend was similar, a little bit stronger. Also, a significant evidence for a linear trend, and there was a 14% reduced risk per additional age at menarche category. Cerebrovascular disease was not significant. However, there was some suggestion that the later menarcheal age category may have had a decreased risk. Our findings are consistent with the literature in Caucasian studies. The EPIC Norfolk study recently looked at this and found that not only was menarcheal age associated with a decreased probability of baseline BMI, waist circumference, in type 2 diabetes, they also found a decreased risk of cardiovascular disease events and mortality in their follow-up.